And welcome back, everybody, to this special five-ringed Olympic edition of the TV show. I'm Jay Black, joined as always by the angry that I mentioned the Olympics, Angelo Cataldi, and the happy to be here, I imagine, to be with her friends, Rhea Hughes. So we're going to start by talking about what's going on right now with the Olympics. The ratings, we talked a lot about ratings, Angelo, when I was on the radio show with you. The ratings were astoundingly high for this Olympics, 80% increase year over year. Now, remember, 3 years ago, Tokyo was a little bit different, but still the highest ratings that we've seen since like 2008. People are excited about this Olympics. And I wanted to ask you your theories as to why that is and your feelings on the Olympics in general. And Angela, let's start with you.
I refuse to respond to the question, and I'm going to now remove myself from the conversation. I despise the Olympic Games, and to such an extent that I was literally walking through the living room on Friday night when my entire family was watching the opening ceremonies, and they invited me to sit there. And I said, not on your life. I hate the Olympics. Now, I'll just tell it one quick story, and you guys discuss the Olympics. In 1988, I went to the Olympics to cover the Summer Games in Seoul, South Korea for the Philadelphia Inquirer. And I was assigned the two most corrupt sports, women's gymnastics and men's boxing, all right?
Yes.
And I witnessed something. Putting aside, we now know the stuff that was going on with women's gymnastics. Bella Caroli, the Caroli Ranch, the little girls that were being abused and starved and all that. Forget that, all right? Because I wasn't witness to that. A lot of that stuff was happening behind the scene. I was witness in 1988 to the story of Anthony Hembrick, who was an Army boxer, a middleweight, whose dream his whole life was to win a gold medal. He even said to me, I got exclusive access to Anthony, and he said to me, I know I'm going to have a pro career. I hope to be the next Marvin Hagler, but this is my life goal. And the day of his first match, his coach got the schedule screwed up. It was really weird because it was kind of in Korean and it wasn't translated clearly. And he showed up at the venue 12 minutes after the bout was scheduled. He was scheduled to fight a South Korean boxer. South Korea had a lot of power at the boxing venue, and they wouldn't reschedule him. And they said, you're done, go home. He went all the way to Korea and never got to go into the ring. Now, as it developed, that was also the worst judged boxing in the history of the Olympics. A guy named Roy Jones Jr. Demolished the South Korean boxer, and the decision was 3-2 for the South Korean boxer. I saw corruption. I saw the crushing of dreams like nothing I ever saw in any other sport. And therefore, I hereby remove myself from this conversation or any future ones about the outrageous Olympic Games. Thank you.
Well, I mean, I just want to say this about your story, Angela. I have recurring dreams about being late for comedy shows because if like my whole livelihood depends mostly on being on time. Being funny is secondary to being there at the start of the show. I imagine showing up 12 minutes late to your dream that you've trained your whole life for. The stomach ache I can imagine that kid must have had going in. One
other thing though, Jay, if you show up late for one of the boat shows, did they throw you overboard?
They might. You know what? And about 3 weeks into this next cruise, I might show up late on purpose just to end my misery. Rhea, are you a fan of the Olympics? Do you watch any of it? What's your favorite one, and why do you think people like this one so much and watch it?
I loved it a lot growing up. I mean, I ran track, so Mary Decker Slaney, when she got tripped in the Olympics that year, that broke my heart by Zoe Budd, I think her name was. I mean, so we're going back a bit of a ways. I was not into the Tokyo one. I think, wasn't that the pandemic? Weren't they wearing masks and there was nobody in the stands? So I'm not surprised. this one, number one, it's the time difference. So there's only what 5 or 6 hours as opposed to 13 hours for Tokyo. So I knew the Team USA, the basketball team. So I had a specific reason I was watching on Sunday because I wanted to see Joel Embiid do exactly what he's always done whenever they're in the playoffs. Come up lame. He was sick. They had to bench him. He was terrible. But then I was treated to just a spectacular game. One of the game by Kevin Durant was so beautiful. I mean, I just loved it. So, but I watch it all. But Angelo, I will tell you, and I get why you were upset, almost 30 years ago. They're doing something with this Olympics, which I think is really helping the ratings. They imported Scott Hansen. Now, you know who Scott Hansen is, right, Ange? The red zone, right?
Right.
They're doing something called the gold zone, which they've had to bring in like 4 other hosts because these things are going on like kind of around the clock. So that literally you don't have to sit through all of archery because but you want to see the biggest part of it, the biggest part of the gymnastics. So they're literally doing the same thing when there's something crazy going on. When someone's about to win a medal, they go right to it. And they have found, and you can only get this, the gold zone, if you actually subscribe to Peacock. People are finding it as addictive as they found the red zone. And it's just really cool.
Rhea, I didn't know this existed. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
And they brought him in from the red zone to do this?
Yeah, they had to bring in 3 other anchors along with it because, although when he does the red zone, he goes from, 1 o'clock in the afternoon until 8 o'clock. Well, here they're going on all the time. So he does like 2 until late at night. But yeah, it's really fun. I just think and I think Mike Tirico is very good. I think he's done a really nice job as the host. So I like it, but I've always liked the Olympics. So
I'll tell you what, I love the idea of removing barriers to enjoyment, and
yeah.
whatever it takes to nobody wants to sit through the team
No.
from Belgium firing arrows
No.
in the prelims. Like nobody in history ever said,
No.
we want to see our people shooting arrows. That's it. Great idea. Now, let's move on to something we can all agree on. That Pulp Fiction was the most mind-blowing moment that anybody's ever had in the theater. Actually, it might have just been for me, but I feel like everybody must feel like I do. It's the 30th anniversary of the release of Pulp Fiction, one of my favorite podcasts, and what you should listen to when you're not listening to this podcast. The Rewatchables just did a 4.5-hour deep dive on it. The only thing I want to talk about is when I was in the theater, I was 17 years old when that movie came out. And I remember having my head blown off by this movie. I remember sitting in the movie theater, and it was I call it a you can't go back moment. Like it felt like movies can never be the same again because every movie will be influenced by this one. And I was thinking about other moments in pop culture when that happened. I had one other, which is when I heard Nirvana with Nevermind in 91, a big moment for Jay in sophomore year of high school to go, wow, this is amazing. Music can never go back now that Nirvana has existed. I wanted to ask both of you, and Rhea, we'll start with you. Do you have a moment in pop culture with movies or TV that you had that same thing happen where you went, well, everything is different now. This thing is amazing. And if so, what was it?
Well, for me, I think you guys may find it odd when I mentioned the movie at first, but for me, I was a teenager. The Breakfast Club. When that came out, you've got 5 kids. You've got the rich girl, the bad guy, the nerd, the weirdo, the jock. And they put them, they're all there for Saturday detention with the real mean assistant principal. And, we didn't have the internet back there. Twitter wasn't available so that people could tell their innermost feelings and their anxiety. And you saw it was the first time I saw a teen movie where it was real. Oh, this girl's so rich. What problems could she have? Oh, the jockey wins everything. How bad could life be? And when Anthony Michael Hall writes they're supposed to write a 1,000-page essay, when he's voicing it over at the end, I mean, and then you got Judd, what was it? Judd
Nelson.
Judd Nelson, Judd Hirsch. He would have been a little bit too old for that.
Judd Hirsch would have been great in that role.
Yeah, it would have been great as it. When he's got the "Don't You Forget About Me," I mean, that was my song. So for me, but I thought, and I think that really, kicked off John Hughes's career, because I mean, you could look at the movies that he made, but just for me as a teenager, it was a huge moment because I'm like, don't go back to painting teenagers as just one kind of mode. They're, I just loved it.
Rhea, before I bring Angelo up and get his choice, I just want to say I have one problem with the Breakfast Club.
But
As someone who was an Anthony Michael Hall, if we're doing the
Yeah.
stereotypes, you couldn't throw in a sixth person for him to hook up with at the end. Judd Nelson gets Molly Ringwald. Emilio Estevez gets Ali Sheedy,
Yeah.
and here's me, Jay Black, watching as Anthony
The
Michael Hall.
nerd.
Couldn't you just throw a nerd girl in that pops in at the end? Can't he have a hookup? That's all I'm saying. Justice for Anthony Michael Hall. That's it. Angelo, what was your can't go back moment?
All right, just to add to Rhea, the new documentary out by Andrew McCarthy on the Brat Pack. It's on Hulu.
Oh, is it good?
Check it out because it makes you reappreciate not just the Breakfast Club, but all of those John Hughes movies.
Pretty in Pink. Yeah.
And I'm telling you, it's really good. It's just because you're seeing this Brat Pack.
Yeah.
They haven't seen each other for 25 or 30 years. And suddenly Andrew McCarthy shows up at their door. And it's really interesting to see them talk about what that era was like for them.
That was my crush. And
Yeah.
when they filmed The Mannequin, which I think was universally panned as one of the worst movies ever, me and my girlfriends drove downtown because I was trying to ask him to go to my prom.
Let me tell you something. They did it right in one of the department stores there. You're right.
Yeah.
Anyway, mine is pretty obvious. All right. It's The Godfather. And it's simply because I've read about this. And when the original premise to make a movie, The Godfather, came out, it was rejected because people are sick of mob movies. They don't make any money. Well, that did not stop Francis Ford Coppola or Al Ruddy, who is the producer of it. And it became a movie that changed everything. It revived the career of arguably the greatest cinema performer ever in Marlon Brando. Totally revived his career. It began the career of the great Al Pacino. It enhanced the career of James Caan, Diane Keaton. It changed, but more than that, it spawned a lot of great movies. It spawned Goodfellas, Bronx Story, Donnie Brasco, Scarface, Casino, and even two TV shows. The Offer, which is just a great show about how they made The Godfather, and maybe the best TV show in history, The Sopranos.
Yeah.
They were all derivative in some way of The Godfather. And it had a massive impact. And go watch it today. All these years later, it's still a masterpiece.
Angela, I'd go a step further and say not only did it spawn all of those mob movies, it spawned the idea that if you take a B genre, if you take a genre movie, a gangster picture, and you put A-list talent onto that thing, you get something that everybody enjoys. It's a 4-quadrant picture that everybody wants to go see. I would say it spawned Jaws. It spawned Star Wars.
Yeah.
It spawned Indiana Jones. The adventure movie, the sci-fi movie, and the horror movie, all B genres with A-list talent. That's all the Godfather formula. And that's what modern movie making is. If you want to start a dividing line between the old way of doing things and the new way of doing things, you couldn't ask for a better line than the Godfather.
All right, Jay, hold on. I would like to thank you now for ruining it for me. It created genres I can't stand, like these horror movies and these science fiction movies. So now I'm unhappy that they did The Godfather. Thank you for that. It means a lot to me.
I'm going to try to bring you around to the Olympics next. All right. So I didn't know you read this book, Angelo. So I'm excited that we can talk about it. The other thing I want to talk about, I'm home alone this week. My family has been gone for 10 days. I'm going out of my skull. So I've just been reading like a madman. And I read a book called Opposable Thumbs, which is a biography of Siskel and Ebert. You get a little bit about their childhood, but they get real quick to the meat of the story, which is how they met, how this thing started, their days as a newspaper man, and that movement to television. And one of the things that they talk about in the book is this idea of how much modern television owes to Siskel and Ebert. These two guys that don't look like anybody that should be on television, having an intelligent conversation with, and Angelo, I'll start with you because it reminded me of something you say all the time, which is being real.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they talk about with Siskel and Ebert was they couldn't fake how they felt. So everything that you saw with them was absolutely real, even down to the animosity that they had for one another. Do you agree, number one, that Siskel and Ebert, like a lot of modern television, owes itself to that format? And also, what are your feelings about the show? And did you watch it, back when it was on?
From the PBS version, I watched Siskel and Ebert wherever they were, whatever they did. But take a look at this mug here. See this mug here? All right. This mug got 10 years on TV because of Siskel and Ebert. We did a show called The Great Sports Debate. And The Great Sports Debate was a bunch of guys yelling at one another and arguing.
Yes.
It wasn't movies, it was sports. But that was the very beginning of all, pardon the interruption, all the stuff that you see even now. It started with Siskel and Ebert. And in my estimation, no one was ever better at it than Siskel and Ebert, because they were both alphas. They were so competitive. Gene Siskel was this Chicago Bulls guy. He was with them all the time. He was ferocious, and it drove him insane that Roger Ebert, really, honestly, the greatest film critic in history,
1000%,
that Roger Ebert won a Pulitzer Prize for film criticism when Roger was still in his 30s, and Siskel never sniffed one.
Yeah.
It killed him. It killed him. And those guys knew nothing about TV. They had no clue what they were doing. But they figured it out, and people liked what you just said. The rawness of real opinions expressed passionately. It's the very formula that we even used on our radio show. Those guys did it first, and they did it brilliantly.
Rhea, you agree?
Yeah, no, and I watched it a little bit because I wasn't, Angelo knows, like, I wasn't a big movie person. I've gotten into movies lately, but 20 years ago, whatever. But when you talk about PTI, which remains one of my Michael Wilbon is sometimes insufferable, but he also knows what he's talking about. So, I love when those two go at it. That's one of my favorite ones. But I will just say locally here, when when Xfinity used to have Daily News Live, the beginning of Daily News Live, Stan Hochman, Ray Didinger, Sam Donnellan, Marcus Hayes, when they would go at it, I mean, Angel and I would be like 5 o'clock. We were in front of our TV and never missed it. It was a brilliant show they had, and later iterations, Michael Barkin ran it perfectly, but that show was exactly what Angel was talking about. Real, raw opinions offered up by guys who are not movie stars and women who are not, supermodels, but it was just real, and that's what I loved about it.
Just one thing before we move on, reading about the days of like when newspapers reigned supreme in the 70s and 80s, like there was 4 full-time Chicago newspapers that all had full-time film critics and sports columnists. It made me really miss the old days. And we used to have a subscription to the Inquirer, the Courier Post, the New York Times, Newsweek, Time, U.S. News World Report. I just remember the morning, reading the paper every morning. Like that was what we did. And we fought over sections. I kind of miss that. I know we live in a better time, but I miss when there was an actual physical paper that they brought to your house and you could read Roger Ebert in it. Well, you know what I don't miss? I don't miss any chance that I can to talk about how great our sponsor, Steven Singer, is. Did you see what I did there, Rhea? Thought that was pretty good. Steven Singer is our sponsor, and you guys know him better than anybody. So tell me, should our listeners immediately after they're done this podcast go buy some jewelry there? Because I think they should.
Let me start this because I'm going to tie in Steven Singer with Adele.
All right.
Oh my God.
Adele has been dating for a long time the great agent Rich Paul, and last week she appeared on TMZ one of my all-time favorite websites, wearing a rock the size of the Plymouth Rock. It was massive. And I looked at it and I couldn't help myself. I went, I don't know where Rich Paul got it, but he would have gotten a better ring if he went to Steven Singer. The other corner ate the walnut, because Steven, all I can tell you is, like, Rich Paul is super rich.
Yeah.
The quality of the ring is what's important. The quality of the stone, right? And we never know that. Rhea, they got that little thing they look at to see how good the stone is, but we don't know what that means, right? You have to trust the honesty of the guy you're buying it from. And the quality, that quality is what determines the price by millions in the case of a Rich Paul. And that's the main reason you have to have somebody trustworthy like Steven Singer.
My favorite Steven Singer moment was, I helped a friend, a guy friend, was, wanted to, and he was like, I don't know anything about this, and I took him to Steven Singer and I said, I don't have to do anything, but I'll help you. I'll come with you. And because guys get afraid when they go in, they're like, oh my God, this is going to cost $1 million. No, you are not buying a Della ring. Okay. You are buying the woman you're going to be with for the rest of your life, not the next 5 minutes. That's what Steven Singer Jewelers will help you do. Find a beautiful ring at a perfect price for you.
Go to IHateStevenSinger.com. You can find the link right in the podcast description. Do it right now, unless you're driving, in which case, wait till you get home. Don't be silly. Don't get into an accident, but click on the link. Now, Rhea Hughes, you have America's favorite segment, which is the British segment. And I believe you had a job this week that Angelo asked you to do.
And I know you're going to be very disappointed in me. My bandwidth was getting low, so I had to turn off my Wi-Fi on my other accompanying pieces I have around here. I tried. It's too dated. I'm not a sci-fi person. It didn't work for me. So I apologize. I did try.
You tried. Okay, fair enough. You tried and couldn't do it. So do you have something else for us then?
I do. So I have reviewed the show before. It's called Troppo, Troppo, Troppo. It's an Australian TV series. I saw season 1 like a year ago. They just dropped season 2. It's a private eye detective show. A young woman, really troubled, and this older guy, also troubled. They investigate a murder together. It has been so popular on Amazon Prime. It's risen to 7th on Amazon Prime's top 10 most watched list, with 100% Rotten Tomatoes number, which is really hard to get. It's a mystery show, but it's in this amazing Australian tropics with snakes and alligators that you're always scared about. But the storyline is so much better this year. So that it's Ted and Amanda. They're played by Thomas Jane and Nicole Shimon. Amanda last year had a shaved head and looked really hard. She's grown her hair in this year. She's gorgeous. I mean, she's really pretty. But the storyline is they're investigating the murder of a guy who owned a teenagers holistic retreat. It involves bikers and drug gangs, but I love the relationship between these two. It is not romantic at all, but it is feisty and it's caring at the same time. So I like that there's no romance between these two, because it opens up their partnership for a lot more depth. And I like it, and the audience loves it, and critics love it as well. So season 2 just dropped on Amazon Prime. Troppo.
Very nice. Troppo on Amazon Prime. And we'll do Teen Corner together, Rhea, at the end of the podcast. Real fast before I move on, I'm looking at myself in this video here. I've really let myself go since my family's not here. I'm not
what are you doing with your hair?
I'm nothing. I'm doing nothing. And I looked in the mirror. I'm looking at myself right now going, I got an Eskin vibe going on that I don't like. I need to take care of this. I look very Wolfman-esque. I'm sorry for how I look. Angelo, what do you got for us this week?
We never thought you looked that great, so it doesn't look that different to me. I have two. It's interesting. It just fell on these two things. 2 tremendous documentary projects involving fallen heroes. Number 1 is on Max. Terrific. 4 parts. Charlie Hustle. All right. And it says In the Matter of Pete Rose. This is new. This is truly the best depiction yet of the good of Charlie Hustle, Pete Rose, and the bad. The good is all the video of what a great baseball player he was.
Yeah.
Because he was spectacular. And this great stuff from Mike Schmidt talking about how when he joined the Phillies, they had a different mindset. He got the whole team to think differently. He was amazing. And then he opens his mouth and ruins everything. And he does it over and over. And the whole thing, these people had incredible access to Pete Rose. He's 81 now, and he's still trying to get into the Hall of Fame. He is not trying to be reinstated into baseball, even though gambling now is a lot more acceptable than it was when he got caught. But this story of how no matter, he wants it so desperately. And then he starts belittling people and annoying people and lying. They catch him in so many lies. They literally put the two comments back to back. What he said and then what he says in the interview, and you could see he's lying. And, you know, in my book, Loud, I said, no, he's never getting in my hall. I watched him play and I went, wow, he should be in the hall. And then he talked and I went, no, they consider character, but you will absolutely be spellbound by this documentary. It's 4 parts. It breezes by. It's called Charlie Hustle. And the other one you have to check out, Jay, because it's one of your guys, Sorry Not Sorry, on Amazon Prime, the story of Louis C.K.
Oh, is it out? It came out?
It's not only out. Now, I had to pay $4.95 for it, but it was worth every penny.
You need me to send you $5?
What's that, Rhea?
Me to send you $5? Are you okay now that you're retired?
Oh,
okay.
no, Rhea, you will, because this is the thing. Louis C.K. is one of the great stand-up comics ever. Also, a really awful guy. And they expose him for his awfulness by finding the people that he got, the women that he went to and said, do you mind if I masturbate in front of you? And he did it. And he acknowledged in his stand-up that that's his fetish, right?
Right.
But to hear the way he really didn't think this was anything that bad. Yet you can sense from it, he didn't give them access in this documentary. But by the end of it, you go, man, I'm putting him on my list. All right. Will Smith, Bill Cosby, Harvey Weinstein, Woody Allen, and for other reasons, Kurt Schilling. There are
Smith does not belong on that list. Those other people were dirtbags. Will
He's
Smith
also a horrible person.
He
All
slapped
of
a
these
guy.
persons,
Stop it.
I'm actually starting a cemetery now. All of those people and more are dead to me. But these are the two. Charlie Hustle on Max, Sorry Not Sorry on Amazon Prime. I'm telling you, they're both really, really good.
I will watch Sorry Not Sorry today. I was excited for it to come out. I didn't know that it was out. I know Jen Kirkman, who's one of the women I think they interview. I worked with her in Nashville, and she is a fantastic lady. And I'm sorry that she had to go through that. And I will say, when I used to work at the MGM in Las Vegas, from my room to the comedy club was a sports memorabilia store that used to have Pete Rose at it. And they used to have him in a little box out in front of the store, where it was like a glass cage. It was like an advertisement. You could come in and talk to Pete Rose for, however much you're going to pay. It was the saddest thing. Like if you wanted to construct like the end of Raging Bull, like as worst as you can get, the little Pete Rose in this little box was the saddest thing. So I'll check out both of those. Now, Rhea, we are going to talk Teen Corner here because a movie that Angelo might jump out the window that we're talking about it. There's a movie called Deadpool and Wolverine that not only came out, it dominated the box office. I mean, it's going to make $300 million today domestically. It's going to do $2 billion probably worldwide before it's all done. Your son saw it. I saw it. What did your son have to say about it? And then I'll give my 2 cents.
Well, he and his father, they pre-ordered the tickets. They had been waiting for this movie to come out because they've watched whenever it used to be like, Clark, the language in this, he goes like, Ma, I watched Deadpool. Okay, stop with the language. I've seen it all. So they couldn't wait. They had their tickets. They went Friday night. By the way, to the AMC in the Fashion District, is a phenomenal place to go see a movie.
Best
You get
place
your
in the
own,
area. Yeah,
oh,
great.
your own recliner. They deliver the food to your chair. It's just, I love that place. Um, Clark said he absolutely loved it. His exact words was, amazing movie filled with cameos from forgotten characters. He loved the music that went with the scenes in Deadpool. And what I would read was that Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman had to like personally get Madonna's permission to use, was it
Like a prayer,
like a
like a prayer.
like a
Yeah.
prayer, which Clark he thought, which I love. He's starting to look at movies like you do, Jay. He's like, the music that went with the scenes and some of the best fight scenes with the music. And he said it was really funny. You know, he absolutely loved it. I'm sure you're going to tell more about the plot because I only saw like the first Deadpool, so I don't really know all the storyline, but Clark loved it. Critics 79%, which is still pretty high. Audience loved it 96%.
Clark is 15, Rhea. Do I have that right?
He turns 15 on Sunday.
15 on Sunday. I'm going to say
Yeah.
this. If you were to construct a movie, if you were to do the platonic ideal of a movie made for a 15-year-old boy, this would be it. This was
Yeah.
like the movie that when you were reading comic books when you were a kid, you'd go, wouldn't it be cool if you could get the X-Men and Deadpool or get them together and you just smash your action figures together.
Yeah.
It's good, dumb fun.
Yeah.
It's the multiverse. The idea is that Deadpool needs to find a Wolverine to anchor his universe. So he goes and finds the worst Wolverine from a parallel dimension, brings him back to his dimension. And they have to fight against Charles Xavier's sister, a woman named Cassandra Nova, who is played by, you know her, Rhea, Emma Corrin, who played Princess Diana.
She's great.
Rhea, I'm gonna watch The Crown. She is phenomenal. Not only a great actress, one of the most beautiful human beings. Like,
Yep.
like just absolutely like distractingly attractive. Because I'm watching
When
it.
you watch The Crown, you'll be stunned at how much you feel like you're looking at Princess Di. That's how good she
It's
is.
amazing. Her bone structure is, again, I feel like if you were casting a model for a TV show or a movie, this is who you would choose.
Yeah.
So I can't recommend it if you don't enjoy nasty language and a lot of sexual references.
Language is nasty.
If you can get past that, it is an enjoyable time. It's going to make $2 billion for good reason. And I think the Marvel Universe is back, at least for now. Good stuff. Angelo, what did we cover this week?
We covered a lot. The Olympic Games, which I do not in any way recommend, are available on NBC and all of its affiliates. The Pulp Fiction, which we did a whole discussion on, you can watch that iconic film on Amazon Prime. Rhea recommended Breakfast Club. That's available on Netflix. The Godfather, and all three of them are available on Paramount Plus. Troppo, I'm not sure which it is available on Prime. Don't miss that. If you want to actually see Siskel and Ebert, there's lots of their shows are on YouTube, and you would be able to see them there. I'm highly recommending Charlie Hustle on Max and Sorry Not Sorry on Amazon Prime. And in honor of Roger Ebert, we've got 2 thumbs up for what's it called?
Deadpool and Wolverine.
2 thumbs way up.
I got 2 thumbs up for Angelo Cataldi and his book Loud, which you can get right now at angelocataldi.com or on amazon.com, or you can go to Audible if you want to hear him read it to you. I've got another 2 thumbs up for Steven Singer, our wonderful sponsor. If you go click on the link, you can go buy a diamond. What was that, Angelo?
Another thing, Jay, if you go to my website later today, angelocataldi.com, I am posting on my blog the reason I hate the Olympics. And
can't wait.
I'm sure, Rhea, that's going to occupy much of your afternoon.
Oh, yes.
You can go read that right now because it'll be posted by the time this episode drops. There's a link up in the description that says send us some fan mail. If you click on it, we will read it. I send every piece to Rhea and Angelo. We get all of it. And, keep talking about the podcast because you help us grow. Rate us, review us, tell a friend, and we'll be back next week, guys. Thank you for joining us.